I wear a mean dark pair of shades. And you can't my eyes unless my head is bent. You dig? We fly high, no lie, you know this. Falling rise outside, it's like showbiz.
Ballin', what's good? KC's Corner. I think I might have found me a new intro song, man. Ballin' is one of my all-time favorites, man. Jimmy Jones, Jimmy Capo, he doing his thing. KC Corner, you know I'm doing my thing, and I got no time to waste. I got a special guest on here. My girl, Money Marie, is back in the building, and you know she had to be back in the building because it's fight week. It is fight week, and I had to bring her back so we could break this down. Money Marie, what's going on with you, girl? Man, for real. And you know, I got to give a shout out because months ago you hopped on here, hopped on the podcast, on the show, and you know, it was a pipe dream at the time. You know, nobody was really looking at it, but this young little girl, this young woman from Florence High School, stand up, said, you know what it's gonna
represent.
Shout out to the Panthers. She said, you know what is going to happen this time. I don't care what nobody else is going to say. It's going to happen this time. And the world might have looked at you crazy, but you know what? Here we are. We about 4 days away from the fight of the century. You called it. I'm saluting you right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the love. And, you know, I had a feeling that it was going to happen. I just, you know, I know that now is the time. It was now or never, and I couldn't see it never happening. So I knew now was the time, you know, and I'm glad it's happening.
Now, let me ask you, everybody makes a little bit of a deal about it, you know, being a little later, being 5 years later, whatever the case may be. I think we can both agree they might have been better boxers 5 years ago. Obviously, they're younger, you know, but how do you feel? Does it take any luster off of it a little bit, or I mean, how do you feel that it's coming a little later?
You know, I do feel like, you know, maybe they have a little less pep in their step. They're going to be a little bit slower, things like that. But, you know, what they say, anything worth having is worth the wait, you know. So it almost makes it better that we've had to wait this long. But, I mean, definitely, you know, you're not looking at Floyd and Manny maybe in their prime or, you know, the best. But they're still fighting each other, and styles make fights. And, you know, the more that I've looked at this, I'm just excited for, you know, the two. They have such different styles and such styles all their own.
Right.
That just thinking about those two styles coming together, and they're so unique, that's what gets me excited for this fight. And, you know, granted, yeah, they're a little older than they were a few years ago, and they're not going to be as fast, but it's still the biggest fight.
Right. These two are still two of the, if not the two baddest men on the planet as far as, you know, the game of boxing. Even at this, you know, later age or whatever the case may be. The only thing that I could see taken away from this fight is, I remember when it was first being discussed, and I was, and I still am, a big Manny Pacquiao fan. And obviously I wanted to see the fight, but I was caught in the middle of something because it would mean so much at that time. At that time, Floyd obviously was undefeated like he still is. And, you know, that undefeated, that O means everything to him. At the time, Manny Pacquiao was obviously one of the two biggest stars in boxing. And he hadn't suffered the Timothy Bradley loss. He hadn't suffered the knockout heard around the world by Marquez. And he had the hopes and dreams of a nation on his back. And he still does, but it was just a little different when he had no flaws to him. Like, at that time, he had no flaws. It was Manny Pacquiao was the greatest, hands down. Now we've seen him lose 2 fights. So, to a certain extent, I got a feeling like they're playing with a little bit of house money. It's like, if he wins, it's great. He's the greatest ever. If he loses, we've seen him lose 2 times in the last 3-4 years. So, you know, it's not going to be as dramatic as it was 5 years ago when they were both like, these are these two dudes. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Right, I see what you're saying, and what I think, kind of to clarify that, is to have two people be undefeated and have them fight, then, you know, then you're saying, okay, well, this person is the best.
Right.
Versus having somebody fight, and can this person dethrone the king? Can this person take off, Floyd Mayweather off his throne? Can they make that blemish in the record?
Right.
Versus saying, okay, you're the better person that day, versus saying you are the best, you are undefeated, you remain undefeated.
Exactly.
So I think there's a difference in those two.
Right. That fight back then would have been for the spot of king. Like the winner is king. This one is, like you said, we already have the king. We're trying to see if this guy can knock down the king. So you hit it dead on with that one. Before we get into the fight, I mean, obviously there's a bunch of stuff leading into the fight, and the propaganda has been at an all-time high. But one of the things that has bothered me a little bit, and I got to talk to you, being the woman that you are, is this whole notion, this whole movement that's been going on the last few weeks of, people shouldn't get the fight because if they are, they're supporting Floyd's domestic violence, and just I don't want to. It's hard to say because like Stephen A. said, when you speak the truth, sometimes people just hear what they want to hear, but this whole character assassination a little bit in the last couple of weeks of Floyd in his domestic abuse thing, and it's hard to say that because he actually did, serve time for it. It's a real issue, and definitely not taking nothing away from that. But it's been like if you support Floyd or if you're watching this fight, you're supporting domestic violence, which is completely ridiculous. And just as a woman, well, what's your thoughts on this whole thing that's been going on?
Personally, as a woman, I like to say that, obviously, I'm not in support of domestic violence or anything like that, but, to say that, you can pick out one person and say, okay, well, if you support Floyd Mayweather, then you're supporting domestic violence or things like that. Everybody has a past.
Right.
Everybody, moves on from things, learns lessons differently and things like that. And I'm not saying that Floyd is a perfect person, and I'm not watching a boxing fight to look at him as a moral representative for myself or for other people in the world. I'm looking at him as somebody who's good at a craft, and I respect anybody who can put that kind of effort and devotion into their craft. And he's, when it comes to boxing, right now he's the best in the world, and he's going to fight somebody else who's, also considered to be one of the best in the world. And I want to see that. And I don't think that that's supporting anything that he does, and there's going to, no matter where you are in the world, you're going to have people that are going to say something that you do is wrong, so.
Right.
I can't really say that even crossed my mind as something that, okay, well, maybe I won't buy the fight because of that. But then again, I'm a huge boxing head, so, my opinion might be biased. But I haven't heard a lot of women complaining about that or anything.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And like I said, I always felt like if you are going to take that stance, that's fine. More power to you. That's your opinion. And to be honest with you, to a certain extent, it's a great stance to take, but I want it to be universal. I want you to take the stance on any other boxer that has any situations going on in their life, or anybody in the NFL or baseball or basketball, or don't listen to music, of somebody who's had certain allegations at them, or don't watch a movie that has somebody that has a certain I want it to be across the board. If that's what you're going to do, don't single out this guy right here, because essentially what it is you just don't like him, and you're finding a reason, to vilify him or not to like him. Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, they, sometimes it's hit or miss with what they did, but they had a lot of good points when talking about it yesterday. They talk about somebody like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson went to jail and was convicted of rape and fought 16 more times after that. This was never an issue. Mike Tyson was in The Hangover, 2-3 times? Nobody ever mentioned anything about The Hangover or boycotting that, movie because of that. So, like I said, I just want consistency. I don't like fake hustle, and that's what I feel some of this is. It's like a lot of fake hustle, and it's trying to, assassinate Mayweather's character and make this a good versus evil thing. When, like you said, we all got past, we all got our own skeletons. No need for me to throw stones, at somebody else in this particular case. So I just wanted to see what you thought as a woman on this situation.
No, and I appreciate you asking my opinion about that, too. And another thing is, too, that I think a lot of people don't give boxing or, sports in general, the credit that they deserve for the fact that they save a lot of people from falling into those into those lifestyles and things like that. And when you come from a rough neighborhood or, anything like that, when you find sports, a lot of times, especially for boxing, being that, I come from a boxing background, I've heard so many stories in the gym of people that, had troubled past, and then they found the boxing gym, and that's what saved them.
Right.
And so, a lot of times for people, that's a lot of the respect that I have for the sport, is that it does, keep kids in the gym, keep people on the right track, and that's sports in general. So, of course, people are going to have faulty paths, but, that's life in general.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's also a good point. I mean, if you pay attention to not only Floyd, but both of these fighters, Manny as well, these two guys came from nothing. Like, they came from absolutely nothing. Floyd, he had, such a crazy household situation, so it seems, with his, father, even though was a fighter, in and out of jail, his mom, on drugs or whatever. Manny came from absolutely nothing, and they changed their lives. And you hear Floyd, he say it all the time, I mean, I changed my life. I did it the right way. I didn't stick nobody up. I didn't rob nobody. I did it with hard work. Same thing for Manny Pacquiao. And once again, it's crazy that I even have to say this because it's common sense. Not condoning the domestic violence, but I do feel some aspects of both of these guys' story should be applauded because boxing gave them the opportunity to do something different. You know what I'm saying? And do something positive with their lives, and they're doing that. So, like I said, it's a lot of fake hustle going on. No, I ain't got time for the fake hustle this week. It's Manny and Floyd this week. That's what it's about this week.
Ain't nobody got time for that. It's fight week.
Ain't nobody got time for that at all. So let's get to the fight itself. Man, I want to hear what you got to say about it. I know me personally, I've been saying for 5 years now, Floyd is the better fighter. I think he's going to win. And when you look at the fight, in my opinion, I mean, it's almost a mirror situation of a smaller sense of what we saw last week with Klitschko and Brian Jennings. Brian Jennings is a great fighter. As a matter of fact, I mean, skill-wise, Pacquiao's probably a little better than Brian Jennings. But the fact remains, there was just certain things he couldn't do because Klitschko was a bigger guy. You know what I mean? He was a bigger guy and he knew how to box. On a smaller scale, Floyd is the bigger guy and he knows how to box. And there are certain things that he just will not let Manny do. And I think that's going to be the biggest part of this fight, in my opinion. What you think?
I agree. I think that there's a lot of things that when I look at this fight, it's hard for me to analyze it. And I have made kind of my staple in boxing, writing and analyzing and things like that on Floyd and on Manny, but I've made that on them separately.
Right.
So to put the two together and have to think how their unique styles are going to match up, that was really a challenge for me.
Right.
To think, okay, you have Manny, this awkward southpaw who's going to bring, just a lot of forward punches. He's going to throw so many punches. And then you have Floyd, who's more of a defensive fighter, who's going to, trap you in, frustrate you, make you miss, and then pick you apart. And so to think about how is that going to work, it puzzles me a little bit because I'm like, oh man, how is this going to work? And it makes me really excited,
right.
Because we don't know. But ultimately, I think Floyd is the better all-around fighter. I think that maybe Floyd, Manny might be a little bit nervous for this fight too. I think he might be a little bit overwhelmed. This is a really big stage and a really big opportunity for him, and he's coming into Vegas, which is, Cinco de Mayweather weekend.
Right.
So he's going to have to, I keep saying dethrone the king, but it's true.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to do it on his territory. And then the one thing that, I look at, like, people that have had, somewhat success against Mayweather, like Maidana did, where Maidana was able to bully him and kind of bring that pressure in the first fight. Manny's not a bully. He's not going to be able to, rough Floyd up in the clinches.
Right.
It's just not his style. He's not really a dirty boxer.
Right.
So I don't see him having any success in that way. So, and then the referee is going to be Kenny Bayless, who was the referee in the second Maidana fight. So in the rematch with Maidana. So Lewis is really known as being a no-nonsense referee. So when I look at that, those two things, that you're going into Floyd's house on Floyd's weekend, and then you have somebody who's essentially going to protect Floyd or protect both fighters, but there's going to be no real dirty boxing or anything like that.
Right.
So then it just comes down to the skill level. And Manny, yeah, you can throw a lot of punches and things like that, but if you can't hit Floyd flush because Floyd's going to be moving, and then, he's going to frustrate you and pick you apart, how do you beat that?
Right. Right. I got a conspiracy theory out there that I floated around a couple times, and I think we might have talked about it in the past. I feel that Marcos Maidana was nothing more than preparation for Pacquiao. I think Mayweather had this fight, looking back at it, and kind of especially after he decided to fight Maidana the second time. I didn't feel like there was any reason to fight Maidana the second time, and I feel like Floyd had it in his head maybe that I need to prepare for somebody like Manny Pacquiao. Maidana is a very poor man's Manny Pacquiao. But just to get that look, get that southpaw look, get that wild look. Then, like I said, I didn't feel like there was any reason for him to fight him the second time. He did. And it was just like the first time he got used to some things. He got used to the physical nature. The second time he went through it again and he said, okay, this is what I need to do to beat a guy like this. And he completely dominated him. And I feel, like you said, there's going to be a little more of the same. I don't think, like you said, physically imposing your will as far as roughing up the fight. That's not what Manny Pacquiao does. He's probably, he's got more foot speed and hand speed. But, Floyd learned how to, fight that style a little bit the second time around. And I just don't think that I don't see, like you said, there's so much stacked against Manny in this situation. All the things you brought up, basically playing a road game, to a certain extent. The moment, you brought it up, the moment is huge. And Manny has been in big fights. He's a headliner. But this is different. This is different. When you get in the ring with Floyd, this is different. The other thing is, after all this talk that Freddie Roach and Manny have done over the last 5 years, they talking about they will fight Floyd. Like, this is your shot, and they're gonna have to do one or two things. Number one, you can't. I'm a big believer in if you get your shot and you get your opportunity, you can't sit back. This is what you've been waiting for. So you can't go in there saying, "Oh, I'm gonna box him and I'm gonna fill him out the first 2 or 3 rounds." No, that's not what you did. You didn't wait this long to fill somebody out. You've got to go at him. You got to take your moment, you got to take your opportunity and take your shot. This is your one shot at immortality. And I think that actually plays right into Floyd's hands. I think you can't go at somebody like Floyd like that, especially if you're smaller like Manny Pacquiao is. If you're a bigger guy, maybe it might be an issue. But as the smaller guy, I think Floyd totally dominates that style of just coming in all crazy. What you think?
I'm with you on that, because the thing is, and I agree on pretty much all aspects of that, because the best game plan for Pacquiao and for his strength is that he's just going to have to throw, flurries of punches. He's just going to have to apply that pressure and keep coming forward and make Floyd fight backwards.
Right.
Well, if you're making Floyd fight backwards, you also have to remember that he's got the infamous shoulder roll.
Right.
So he's just going to be able to, if you're coming forward, he's going to be able to roll out on you and take those angles, which is almost essentially going to make you look stupid in a way, because when you're going forward, and they're able to, quickly roll out under that and get that angle on you,
right,
then, you're still one way and they're completely another way on you, so they're facing you a different direction.
Right. And then you got, even on top of that, you got the greatest counterpuncher in the game right now, the most accurate counterpuncher in the game after you come in all crazy. You look at fights, I've been seeing, they showed some old fights, over the last 2 weeks or so, and you look at a fight like the Ricky Hatton fight. Ricky Hatton said, I'm going to come in, I'm going to bring the fight to Floyd, I'm going to pressure him, blah, blah, blah. Manny Pacquiao is 10 times better than Ricky Hatton. No disrespect to Manny Pacquiao. But if you think you're going to just run in on Floyd, he's going to get you eventually. Like I said, I saw that fight again, and hadn't just tried to dirty the fight up, tried to do, a bunch of crazy stuff. Floyd got used to that in about the second or third round and just peppered the hell out of him for another 8 rounds or so, and eventually took him out the game, in the 10th or 11th, I can't remember. But I mean, that's what it is. If you try to box him, at that size, the way Marquez did when he fought Floyd, Floyd just took him out the game. So I feel like this is not a good matchup for Manny Pacquiao. Despite what people think, I don't think it's a good matchup for him. I don't think it's a good matchup for him to be the smaller guy coming in, reach-wise, height-wise, and I think Floyd is going to handle him. Now, the reason why we are on the edge of our seats today and we're waiting for this fight for 5 years is because, despite all what I've said, Manny Pacquiao has the punching power that nobody Floyd has faced. And Floyd can dominate the fight all he wants. With somebody like Manny Pacquiao, it only takes one punch to turn everything around. And that's why we will be glued to our TV sets on Saturday night. That's why right there.
It's not only that, it's that speed is power. So when you are fighting somebody with speed and that can just, throw that many punches,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I don't, just because I think Floyd is going to win this fight, I don't want to take anything away from Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is an amazing boxer, and he's amazing at being Manny Pacquiao, just like Floyd is amazing at being Floyd Mayweather. And there are no two boxers that you can emulate. So
Right.
It's hard to prepare for a fight. How do you prepare for Manny Pacquiao? How do you prepare for Floyd Mayweather when they have a style all their own?
Right.
And so, when I look at Manny Pacquiao, I think that speed is power. So if he definitely has those devastating, power punches that he's used in the past. And as he's gotten older, it's less effective. He's not knocking people out. And, we can go there, we cannot go there, but, we'll say neither Floyd or Manny are really knocking people out right now. But speed is power, and he definitely has speed. And so that's what makes Manny dangerous, too, is that, he can overwhelm you with his speed and catch you with something clean, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And like you said, I talk about the Ricky Hattons or the Marcos Maidana, and like you said, let's be perfectly clear, they are not Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao they talk about there's only one Ricky Hatton. No, there's only one Manny Pacquiao, and you can't replicate that in a sparring session or in a fight preparing for Manny Pacquiao. So, like you said, that's what's gonna make it so interesting. I'm glad it's finally here. I gotta get your final and official prediction on Floyd and Manny.
I'm going with Floyd Mayweather by decision. It's going to the judges, and I think that, it's going to Money May.
No, okay, it's official. Money Marie is on the money team this weekend. Now, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I'm getting this from. I feel like the accumulation of accurate punches will take its toll, and I got Floyd stopping him in the 11th. I think he stops Manny Pacquiao. For all the people talking about Floyd punches with pillows and he ain't got no punching power, I think he stops Manny Pacquiao in the 11th. That's what I see going on.
I like it. So we'll have to see what happens. I think the best thing that could happen for the world of boxing is that if this fight goes to a draw, could you imagine?
Oh, goodness.
What could happen? And so, if this was the highest selling fight of all time, could you imagine if this was a great fight and it goes to a draw? So that's, as a boxing head and somebody who is just, in love with the world of boxing, that could be the best thing that could happen. But I do see that, I feel like Floyd's going to just take it to decision and get it done.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. And even with all that said, I think Manny will be ready. I think he'll be ready to fight. I just think Floyd is a little better. But I think Manny will be physically ready. He'll be mentally ready. And I think he'll be ready to perform. I just don't think it'll be enough. Sorry, Manny.
Most definitely.
Sorry, Manny.
I have no doubt in my mind that, Manny is going to bring it. Floyd is going to bring it. I have no doubt in my mind that these guys are just fully prepared and ready to go. Yes,
indeed. Money Marie, you did it again. You killed it again. 2 seconds. You got any thoughts on the Giants right now? What you seeing with the Giants?
It's still so early in the season. I think, we got some young talent. talent out there. I'm just excited to see what the rest of the season is going to bring. And, we'll just have to see what happens. It's a long season, so I'm hanging in there. And, as long as we're beating the Dodgers, I'm happy.
That is always a great thing. We're beating the Dodgers and we always got that World Series patch on our sleeve, then it's perfect. It's all good.
Can't complain there.
No doubt. Thank you for hopping on, man. Enjoy the fight. Man, it's finally here. Once again, another salute to you for calling it and essentially thinking it into existence. Thank you. We all need to thank Money Marie right now.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm just happy it's happening. So, it's all good.
No doubt, no doubt. Hey, KC's Corner, Mayweather, Pacquiao this Saturday. You guys enjoy the fight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I'll be back at you. Y'all be good. Peace.
Outside, it's like showbiz.